presenting the transcription feature, Superman. Guys, look!
It's a bird!
It's a plane! It's Superman!
And now, Superman, strange visitor from the planet Krypton. Superman, champion of the weak and the oppressed, possessed of physical powers far beyond those of mortals, and who walks about among ordinary men disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper. Can a freight car, sandwiched in among 100 others, disappear into thin air on a trip between one station and another? Well, that's the problem Superman is now trying to solve. As Clark Kent, he and Lois were assigned to cover for their paper the arrival of a freight train, bringing with it a specially armored car bearing $5 million in gold. Gold being moved from another city to the National Bank in Metropolis. Our friends reached the railroad terminal just as the train pulled in. And it was at that moment that... But wait. Let's listen.
Train for Calcutta, Big India, Phoenicia, Esopus, West Yokan, Boyceville, leaving on track 4.
Order, sir. Order.
Clark, it isn't possible. It simply couldn't happen.
Well, it has happened, Lois.
Well, then will you please explain how? The Metropolis National Bank has a specially armor-plated freight car built. They sandwiched the car in among nearly 100 others. There's an armed crew inside the car, and it's sealed from the outside.
I know, and yet when the train arrives here in Metropolis, the special armored car is missing. Vanished completely.
Along with the crew and $5 million. Clark, it isn't possible.
You did some checking up at Bolton, the last stop the train made?
Yeah, I telephoned the station agent there. Wanted to get a few details on the story we're supposed to write. And he told me he checked that car through when the train made its last stop there.
Well, then if we can believe his story, the freight car must have disappeared between Bolton and Metropolis. Come on, Lois.
Where to?
Have a talk with the engineer. I want to find out definitely whether or not this train stopped between here and Bolton.
Yeah, I'd sort of like to know about that myself.
Excuse me.
Yeah?
You the engineer on this train?
Yeah.
My name's Kent, reporter for the Daily Planet.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you don't mind answering them.
Depends.
Oh, talkative, isn't he?
I'm interested in trying to solve this case for my paper. It'd make a swell story. One thing I'd like to know, did you make any stops between Bolton and here?
Nope.
You didn't stop even once? You didn't get a red signal at some switch-off or anything like that?
Nope.
Well, look, was there anything that struck you as being peculiar about it? Anything on this run that you never noticed on other trips?
Nope.
I see. Well, thanks a lot.
Welcome.
Come on, Lois.
Well, he was a man of few words, Clark, but he certainly said a mouthful. You'd have to be a Superman to solve this case.
Maybe, and maybe not.
Well, we haven't got very far anyway. All we've done is verify the fact that the train did not stop between here and Bolton.
Well, that's a good deal. That's the one point we've got to be sure of above all others. Whether or not this train stopped.
And yet, Clark, if it didn't stop, how
Wait
on
a
earth...
second, Lois. Here comes Inspector Neely of the police. Hello there, Inspector.
Hello, Kent. Miss Lane.
Well, what do you make of that car vanishing so completely, Inspector?
Kent, if I knew the answer to that one, I wouldn't be looking so worried.
Well, there must be some explanation for it.
When you find it, drop me a line. I'll see you later.
He is worried, Clark.
Well, $5 million is a lot of money.
Well, where to now?
Lois, I want to talk to the boys in the caboose, the brakemen.
Say, that's an idea. They ought to know something about this.
Well, let's hope they do.
Yes, Tom?
Hey, I've been lamping that guy and that dame. I found out they're reporters from the Daily Planet.
What about them, Crumb?
Seems to me they're nosing around a little too much, asking too many questions. I'd better get in touch with the boss.
What for?
Well, the boss never lets things get out of hand. Nips them right in the bud.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of waiting till these two really do find out something about the missing freight car, I think he'll want them put out of the way.
Oh.
Now, you wait here, Lispy, and keep an eye on him.
Okay.
I'm going to telephone the boss.
Well, that brakeman didn't have much to tell us either.
No, doggone it. We got no more out of him than we did out of the engineer. I think what we'd better do now is have a talk with the conductor.
No, wait, Clark. See, I don't see where we're going to get... Clark. Now, where has he got to? I've never seen a man who could lose himself as quickly and easily as Clark Kent. He'd lose his head if it weren't tied on.
Bolton Station speaking. Yeah, the 432 just went through. Okay. Yes, gentlemen. What can I do for you?
I want to talk with you, pal.
Yeah, I want to talk with you. What about?
I want to talk to you about that freight car that disappeared, pal.
Yeah, about the freight car that disappeared. I don't know anything about that, not a thing. I saw the gold car go through with the freight train, and that's all I know about it.
You got it wrong, pal.
Yeah, you got it wrong.
That gold car wasn't with the freight train. That car had disappeared before the train got here.
Oh, no, that isn't so. You see, I checked that car through personally.
Listen, if anybody asks you, like the police, you tell them the car wasn't there.
No, I can't say that. That ain't so. If they ask me, I got to tell the truth.
I don't like to talk too much, pal. You do like I tell you, or won't you?
I can't say that car wasn't there when it was. I can't tell the police that... Oh!
How can you say it?
No, sir. I ain't going to tell a lie no matter what you
yeah?
tell me. Oh, don't.
Let me have a crack at it, Joe.
Get your hands off that man.
Huh? Hey, look, Bill, a masquerade costume.
Yeah, costume. What have you been doing to this man?
Scram, pal, you'll get hurt.
I wouldn't try any rough stuff, boys.
Okay, you're asking for it. Let him have it, Bill.
With the greatest of pleasure.
Holy mackerel, you lifted Bill right off the floor.
Yes, and now the same goes for you, pal.
Stay away from me. I got a gun. Stand back. Stand back or I'll shoot.
Try it, pal.
Fall down, blast you. I can't understand it.
Now it's my turn. Here, now.
Oh, put me down. Put me down.
Now, let me see. Shall it be through the door or the window?
No, please.
The window will do, I think.
No.
You can take your friend with you. Well, that's that. And now, my friend...
Who are you?
Don't worry, I won't harm you. What did those men want of you?
That freight car, the one that disappeared.
Yes?
They wanted me to swear it disappeared before it reached here.
And it hadn't?
No, sir. That car was okay when it reached here. I checked it through myself.
You did, eh? Well, that's all I came here to find out. Thank you and goodbye.
Huh?
Well, I'm sure now that freight train made no stops between here and Metropolis. And I'm also sure that the special gold car disappeared between those two places. That covers a lot of trackage. So there's only one thing to do. Up, up, and away! I can't understand it. Flown along these tracks between Bolton and Metropolis 3 times and not a single clue. The most baffling mystery I've ever come across. Almost as though some giant hand had reached down and picked up that missing car. Not one single clue. Wait a minute. What's that? Down. Oh, stone from someone's ring, eh? An emerald. Funny. Unless someone dropped it from a passing train. A large emerald. And an expensive one, too. I'll have to try to find the owner. But that'll have to wait. Now, up in the air again. Up, up, and away!
This way.
Oh, hello, Crumb. Did you telephone the boss?
Yeah. He says to get rid of the reporter and his girl.
Gee, Crumb, I don't know. I don't see why we have to kill somebody just because they're asking questions.
Well, the boss thinks people who ask questions now may find out some embarrassing answers later on.
Oh.
He believes in getting rid of them quick.
Yeah.
Hey. I just see the girl. Where's the guy?
Well, I lost him in the crowd, Crumb. We can pick him up later. What's he going to do with the girl?
Yeah. Well, I figured that out on my way over here.
Yeah?
Now, listen, the 941 is due in on track 6 in just a few minutes.
Uh-huh.
I'll manage to get the girl over to the platform of track 6. We'll stand there talking. You come up behind us, and just as the 941 comes in, you shove her in front of it. Get me?
Yes, I get you. When the 941 comes in, I shove her in front of it.
Yeah. Excuse with me, miss.
Yes?
You're a reporter for the Daily Planet, ain't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I got a story for you about this missing freight train, if you care to hear it.
I certainly would.
Well, would you mind coming over to Platform 6 with me? I'll tell you there.
Okay. Hey, wait a minute. Why do we have to go over to Platform 6?
Well, you see, I promised to meet a friend who's coming in on the 941. I don't want to miss him. So if you don't mind...
Well, if I want that story, I guess I haven't any choice in the matter.
Okay, then. Just let's move over to Platform 6. I'll tell you all about it as the 941 comes in.
941 arriving on track 6. 941 on track 6. 941 arriving on track 6.
Hey, listen.
Oh, there you are, Crumb. Did you telephone the boss?
Yeah, he says to get rid of those two reporters who've been asking questions of everybody.
Gee, Crumb, I don't know. I don't see why we have to kill anybody just because they're asking questions.
Well, the boss thinks people who ask too many questions now may find out some embarrassing answers later on.
Oh.
He believes in getting rid of them right away.
Uh-huh.
Hey.
Yes?
I just see the girl. What happened to the fellow who was with her?
I lost him in the crowd, Crumb. We can pick him up later. What's she going to do with the girl?
Well, I figured that out on my way over here.
Yeah?
Now, this is what we'll do. The 941 is due in on track 6 in just a few minutes.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'll manage to get the girl over to the platform at track 6. We'll stand there talking. You come up behind us. And just as the 941 comes in, you shove her in front of it. Get me?
Yeah, I get you. When the 941 comes in, I shove her in front of it.
Yeah.
So far, you haven't told me much I don't already know.
Yeah, perhaps you'd better tell me all you do know, miss. Then maybe I can tell you a few things you don't know.
Well, I know that a freight car, specially armored and carrying 5 guards, vanished mysteriously on the way here from Bolton.
Yeah, I know
The
that.
car was carrying $5 million in gold for the Metropolis National Bank. Now, although that freight car was still attached to the train at Bolton, when the train arrived here this morning, the car had completely disappeared. What amazes me is... Oh, here comes the 941 now. Say, don't you think we're standing a little too close to the edge of the platform? We'd better step back.
Oh, no, I don't think we're too close.
Well, I think we'd better step back anyway. It always frightens me a little to be too close.
As the 941 puffs its way into the station on track 6, the man called Lispy edges closer and closer to Lois, waiting for the right moment to push her in front of the oncoming locomotive. Meanwhile, Clark Kent, returned from Bolton, enters the terminal and begins to look for Lois.
I wonder where Lois can be. She must still be here in the station because I haven't been gone long. Oh, there she is at the other end of this platform talking to some man. I'd better go down and... Wait. That man coming up behind her. Something funny about him. I wonder... Stop! He's pushed her onto the track in front of this train.
This is a job for Superman. I'll grab the last car and hold the train back. Here now. There, that does it. The platform hides me completely. With my feet dug into the railroad ties, I can hold this train back as long as necessary. The engineer has applied the brake. My work is done.
Girl, all right?
Yeah, just broke a little. Anybody get the guy who pushed her?
Oh, happened so quickly, no one had a chance to grab him. He got away in the crowd.
Well, I'll say one thing. She's lucky to be alive. How the engineer brought that train to a stop so quickly is beyond me. Yes, sir. It was all... And so, once again, unknown to Lois Lane, Clark Kent, as Superman, is the instrument of saving her from death. Later in the day, when Lois has recovered from the shock of her experience, she and Kent are sent by Editor White to the Metropolis National Bank, there to cover the story of a meeting between Inspector Neely of the police and Reginald Van Doren, president of the bank. Listen.
Please make yourself comfortable. Mr. Kent, you may sit here. Miss Lane over there. Inspector over here.
Thank you.
Inspector, you can well realize this has been the most harrowing day of my life. That freight car is not found and the $5 million recovered, this bank may have to close its doors.
Well, the bank has reserves, hasn't it, Mr. Van Doren?
Yes, Mr. Kent, we have another $2 million. As a last resort, I may have to have that brought on here to cover my deposit.
Mr. Van Doren, Would you mind giving me all the details as to that gold shipment? The number of gold bricks, the numbers on them, and all the rest of it?
Glad to, Inspector. My secretary, Mr. Fortune, has those figures.
Fine.
Yes, Mr. Van Doren?
Fortune, bring in the figures on the gold shipment, please.
Certainly, sir.
My, that's an odd name, Mr. Fortune. Quite appropriate for the secretary of a banker.
It is that.
Yes, Fortune's been with me many years. Invaluable man. As a matter of fact, I presented him not long ago with a sort of token of the bank's esteem and gratitude for his years of service.
Oh, did you?
Yes, a rather unusual ring containing one of the largest emeralds I've ever seen.
A large emerald?
Yes. You seem interested, Mr. Kent. I'll ask Fortune to show it to you. Here he is now.
The figures you wanted, Mr. Van Doren.
Thank you. Oh, Fortune, I see you're not wearing your ring. One the bank gave you some time ago.
No, sir,
Mr. Kent here wanted to see it. He's interested in precious stones. Do you have it with you?
No, sir, I haven't.
You usually wear it all the time. What is it?
Mr. Van Doren, I was hoping I wouldn't have to tell you. The truth is, sir, I've lost the emerald.
You what?
Yes, sir. Must have worked loose in the ring and fallen out. And I'm going to put an ad in the paper, sir.
I don't think that will be necessary, Mr. Fortune.
What's that, sir?
This must be the emerald you lost.
Why, so. Where did you get that beautiful emerald?
Why, I picked it up at the railroad terminal this morning. You must have been down at the terminal, Fortune.
Yes, I was.
Are you sure of that, Fortune? I thought you told me you'd spent the morning here at the office.
Well, I did, except for a short time. I went down to see the shipment come in. Mr. Kent, I don't know how to thank you.
Oh, glad to be able to return it to you.
You're sure you found it at the terminal, Mr. Kent?
Could you have lost it anywhere else?
Why, no, I don't think it. You asked that question in a sort of peculiar way, Mr. Kent.
Not at all, Mr. Fortune. I just thought I'd ask. You see, it's a reporter's job to ask questions. And funny thing, he usually gets the right answer.
Yes? Who is it? It's me, Leslie Fortune. Oh. I've got to talk to the boss right away.
Okay, come in. I'll take you right up. What's wrong?
I think someone's onto me. A reporter named Clark Kent.
Kent? That guy again?
You know him?
Yeah. Me and Crum is down at the terminal this morning. We decide Kent and the dame that's with him are asking too many questions. So we make up our minds to bump them off.
Well,
we push the dame in front of a train. And all of a sudden, the whole train stops like somebody was holding it back. It was amazing.
the engineer must have applied his brakes hard. What about the man Kent?
Well, that's funny, Fortune. He never even showed up. Well, come on, let's go in. I'll signal the boss if you want to talk to him.
Yes?
Fortune is here, boss. He wants to talk to you.
Fortune, I'm glad you've come. I wanted to compliment you on today's work. Had it not been for the information with which you supplied us, we could never have succeeded today in making that freight car vanish.
I still don't know how you did it. But that isn't what I've come to talk about.
Oh?
You remember that emerald ring of mine?
Very well.
Well, I lost the emerald out of it. I had a feeling I lost it the other day when I was doing that job you wanted done out along the railroad track.
Between here and Bolton, yes.
Well, a certain reporter named Clark Kent produced the emerald today in Van Doren's office. He said he found it in the railroad terminal. But I know he didn't because I haven't been near the terminal.
And using Kent's suspecture, eh?
Yeah.
Very well. We must rid ourselves of Mr. Kent. Watch him and the girl closely. The moment you find them in a place where they intend to remain for, let us say, half an hour or more, let me know immediately. I shall see that they are taken care of.
Okay, boss.
Yes?
Hello, boss. This is Fortune. Listen, I've trailed Kent and Lois Lane to Sorrento's restaurant. I'm calling from it now. They're going to have dinner here, and it looks as if they'll be here for at least an hour.
Good work, Fortune. I'll take care of everything from here on.
And what are you going to do?
10 seconds, Fortune. 10 seconds after those two leave the restaurant, our troubles will be over.
But what are you going to do then? Hang up on me. 10 seconds, he said. 10 seconds after they leave the restaurant. And I'll just hang around and see what happens.
Seriously, Clark, Clark, I don't see why you can't leave this entire mystery to the police. You're not a detective, you know.
Well, you don't have to keep throwing it up to me, Lois. No harm trying to solve the darn thing. Are you finished?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then what do you say to taking in the movie, huh?
Oh, that's a swell idea. Take our minds off disappearing freight cars and such anyway.
Okay, then let's go. I'll pay the check and be right with you. Waiter.
They're leaving now. 10 seconds after they step through that door to the street, it'll be all over. 10 seconds, and Mr. Kent will never bother us again.
Well, you all set, Lois?
Oh, wait a minute. Quite a gale blowing outside. I'd better wear this fur piece instead of carrying it.
All right. Here, let me help you. There.
Thank you.
All right, let's go. Taxi, sir? Taxi? No, thanks. We'll walk. Oh, it'd be good to walk on a brisk night like this.
Yeah. You know, Clark, the more I think about that freight car vanishing along with $5 million in gold, well, the more confused I become.
Confused is hardly the word.
How a specially armored car with a crew of men inside it could possibly disappear without a trace?
Look out! That truck blowing! Quick, look out! You all right, Lois?
Oh, thank goodness, Clark. Gee, you pulled me out of the way just in time.
Oh, another second, it would have been curtains.
All right, get back. What's happened here?
This truck crashed in off the street, officer. It almost killed this young lady and myself.
Oh, it did, eh? Ruined the front of this restaurant, too. Hey, you! You the driver of this truck?
Yeah, that's right, officer. I can explain all this if you'll just give me a chance.
Go ahead, I'm waiting.
Well, I think the steering shaft broke.
Oh?
I turned the wheel to go around this corner and nothing happened. Next thing I knew, I was heading out of the sidewalk, and there was nothing I could do.
see.
I stopped you from putting on your brakes. Well, I suppose I could have done that, but I was so excited, I guess I just didn't think.
I'll say you didn't. Clark, where are you going?
I'll be back in a minute. Honest, officer, it wasn't my fault.
no.
My company will pay for the glass window I crashed into.
Let me see your license and your registration while you're about it.
Oh, sure. Sure, here you are.
Now, let's see. Michael G. Hey, you! What are you doing up in the seat of that truck?
I just wanted to see what really had gone on with this truck, officer.
Well, the law will take care of that. Now get down out of there. Come on, get down.
Okay.
Now. Well, let's have a look at this license again.
Well, officer, honest, you can't blame me. I couldn't do it.
Maybe not, and then again, maybe you could. Anyways, I'll have to give you a summons. You can explain it all to the judge in the morning. Now, come on.
Come on, Lois. Let's get out of here. I don't want to be held as a witness.
Gracious, Clark. You're stronger than I thought you were.
Huh?
When you pulled me out of the way of that truck, your grip felt like steel.
Oh, you just imagined that in the excitement of the moment.
I guess you're right. Heavens, we're lucky to come out of this accident alive.
That was no accident, Lois.
What?
I got up into the seat of that truck to find out whether or not that steering gear actually was broken. It wasn't.
You mean the steering gear was all right?
Of course it was. I've never yet heard of the steering gear of a truck breaking without being subjected to some unusual strain. They don't make them that way.
Then that was an attempt on our lives.
Exactly. Now I know why our friend Fortune, Secretary to Van Doren of the Metropolis National Bank, was following us tonight.
Fortune was following us?
Yes, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to upset you. Fortune must have been keeping an eye on us, Lois. The minute we entered Sorrento's restaurant, he relayed word of our presence there to someone else.
Yes, but who?
Well, that I can't tell yet. When we do find out who it was, we'll have the solution to this whole mystery.
But, Clark, why didn't you tell that cop back there that the steering wheel was all right? Why didn't you have the truck driver arrested?
Oh, it wouldn't have done any good. The truck driver is merely a tool, and I don't think he'd talk. Now, Fortune...
What about Fortune?
Well, Fortune is our answer to this entire problem, Lois. I think you'll agree that he must be mixed up in this mess somewhere.
There's no doubt of it.
All right, then. The thing to do is get hold of Fortune and force him to talk. He can lead us to the real head, the real brain behind this mystery. Why, I'll bet anything that once we get Fortune to talk, we'll find the answers to how that freight car disappeared, where it disappeared, and where the $5 million is now located.
Sounds reasonable enough. Now, how do we get hold of Fortune?
Well, only through the bank, I'm afraid. And that's closed now. We'll have to wait till tomorrow morning.
And then what?
Then we'll pay a call on Mr. Van Doren, president of the bank, explain to him our suspicions about Fortune, and then put Fortune on the pan.
And you think you can make Mr. Fortune talk?
No, but I imagine Mr. Van Doren can.
I knew it couldn't be true.
True. What are you talking about, Lois?
I thought for a moment you were beginning to develop some backbone. Sorry, my mistake.
A few hours later, in the hideout of the boss, matters begin to take another turn. Listen.
This is Lispy, boss. Can you hear me?
Yes, Lisby, did you get the truck driver?
Yes, I got him all right. The boys have him outside.
Tell them to bring him in.
Okay. Bring him in, boys.
Honest, it wasn't my fault. I did my best, but that guy Clark Kent saw me coming.
Shut up. All right, boss.
You who drove the truck. Your name is Michael, is it not?
Yeah, that's right, boss. Honest, it wasn't my fault, boss. Lispy here told me exactly what you wanted done, and I did.
Please. You must forgive me, Michael, but I am not interested in excuses. The men who work for me must be thoroughly efficient. When I give an order, I must be able to feel that order will be carried out to the letter. I can no longer depend on you, Michael, and so we must leave our happy little family.
You mean you're firing me?
Yes, Michael, you're fired.
I know what that means. It don't just mean I can walk through that door and then I'm through it. It means when I leave here, your men will follow me. This being a crumb and them other guys, and when I get far enough away from here, they'll...
The man babbles. Take him away.
You can't do this to me, do you hear? It ain't gonna happen to me what happened to them other guys you fired.
Come on, pal.
They find them guys with a bullet through their head.
It's all right, boss. The boys will take care of him.
Good. Lisby, the failure of that truck driver to complete his job puts us in a far more difficult spot than we were in before. Clark Kent may have had suspicions before, but he'll be sure now. Kent now knows definitely that Fortune is implicated in the vanishing of that freight train.
Well, then it looks like we've got to get rid of Kent and do a good job this time.
No, that isn't quite necessary.
Well, what do you mean, boss? If we don't get rid of Kent, he's liable to make trouble.
Possibly. However, there's one other way of accomplishing our design, and it's this. Suppose instead of getting rid of Kent, we simply...
Mr. Van Doren will see you in a moment.
Oh, thank you, sir. Well, the more I think of it, the more I wonder if we're doing the right thing.
What do you mean, Lois?
Well, I'm beginning to wonder if we're right about Mr. Fortune. Somehow he doesn't seem like the sort of person who...
Lois, I don't suspect Fortune only because I know he was following us last night. There's that business of the emerald I found, the emerald he dropped from his ring.
Well, what's wrong with that? No one's likely to lose the stone out of the ring, and there's nothing unusual when you're picking it up in the railroad terminal. Well, did you pick it up in the terminal? Better come clean, Mr. Kent. Where did you find that emerald?
Well, to be frank about it, Lois, I found it lying near the railroad tracks between here and Bolton, about 5 miles out of town.
5 miles out of town?
Uh-huh.
What were you doing out there, and how'd you get out there?
I borrowed a hand car. You know, one of those cars workmen use to inspect the tracks.
You sure of that?
Of course I'm sure. Why?
I don't know. Sometimes I get a funny feeling that, well, if you're not telling me everything. Oh, well, never mind. Why didn't you say you'd found the emerald on the tracks 5 miles out of town?
I didn't want to arouse Fortune's suspicions. It looks as if I did.
Will you come in, please, now?
Oh, thank you. Lois?
Thank you, Clark.
Come in, Miss Lane, Mr. Kent.
Good morning.
Sit down, won't you?
Thanks.
I suppose you're interested in finding out for your paper whether or not we've made any progress in locating the missing freight car.
Progress has been made, Mr. Van Doren, or at least we think it has.
Really?
Mr. Van Doren, we're inclined to think your secretary, Mr. Fortune, has had something to do with the disappearance of that freight car.
My secretary, Mr. Fortune, are you out of your mind, young man?
I don't think so, sir. You remember that emerald I returned to Mr. Fortune yesterday?
Of course I remember.
Well, I didn't find that emerald in the railroad terminal, as I said. I really found it on the tracks between here and Bolton.
Oh, what of it? Wait a minute. I think I begin to see what you're driving at.
Another thing. Mr. Fortune followed Miss Lane and me to a restaurant last night. When we left the restaurant, we narrowly escaped being killed by a truck. It wasn't an accident. We're sure it was an attempt on our lives.
Well, by all that... Young man, you may be right. It certainly appears that Fortune had some knowledge of what's been going on. In any case, we'll question him. He's in the next office. I'll get him. George, I'd known about this before. Fortune, come out here at once, please. Fortune. What the devil?
Anything wrong, sir?
Possible. I know he was in this office. I saw him come in, but he's certainly not here now.
Maybe he stepped out for a minute.
He couldn't have stepped out without my seeing him. The only door to this room leads into my office. The window. The only way he'd get out is by going through my office.
You sure?
Well, look at the office yourself.
Mr. Van Doren's right, Clark. Fortune's office doesn't have a window, and there's no way out except through Mr. Van Doren's own office.
But if he didn't come through your office and he couldn't get out any other way...
Don't tell me he's vanished like the freight car. We will need a Superman to solve this thing now.
Just what I was thinking.
Why, it's fantastic. First, my freight car carrying $5 million in gold vanishes into thin air, and now my secretary does the same thing.
Oh, you must be mistaken, Mr. Van Doren. Fortune couldn't have
I
been...
tell you, he was there. He couldn't have left without my seeing him.
Did you leave your office any time?
I haven't left this office once.
Well, then I certainly don't see...
Who? Oh, it's you, Miss Bailey. Well, what do you want? Bailey, what's happened? Why do you look at me so strange?
Catch her, somebody. She's going to faint.
I got her. She's fainted, all right. Well, things certainly are beginning to happen around here.
Bring a Fortune in here and talk to him. If he knows anything about how that freight car vanished and where the $5 million in gold went to, we'll soon know about it. Mr. Fortune, can you come here, please? Fortune.
Anything wrong, Mr. Van Doren?
Oh, simply couldn't happen.
What couldn't happen, Mr. Van Doren?
Mr. Fortune's not here, Miss Lane. He's not in his office.
Oh, maybe he stepped out for a minute.
He couldn't have done that without my seeing him.
Why, I can't follow you, Mr. Van Doren.
Well, there's only one way to get into or get out of Mr. Fortune's office, and that's through my own office. Here, have a look for yourself.
Seems to be about right. Fortune's office has no window and no other door. To come in or go out, he would have to come through your office here.
Mr. Kennedy's not here, and I saw him come in 10 minutes ago.
You actually saw Fortune come through your office and go into his own 10 minutes ago?
That's right. He said good morning to me as he went in.
And you're sure you didn't see him come out?
Positive, Miss Lane. I haven't left my own office in the past half hour. Fortune could not have gotten out of this office without my seeing him.
Well, if he couldn't get out, he must still be here. Let's have a look in that closet. I'm trying to think that's where we'll find him.
But, Mr. Kent, what on earth could he be doing in that closet?
Well, I can't answer that, but he must be in that closet. There's no other place he could hide.
You must be right, of course. Stand back. I'll open the door.
I don't think I want to look.
Well, we'll soon know. It's not here. There's nothing inside this closet.
This whole thing is getting beyond me. First, a freight car carrying $5 million in gold disappears as completely as if Superman himself had reached down and picked it up. Now your secretary, Mr. Fortune, vanishes just as completely.
I refuse to believe it. It simply couldn't happen.
There's certainly no explanation for it. Clark, why are you rapping on those walls?
I just had a feeling that maybe there might be a secret panel somewhere, but there isn't. These walls are solid. It's beyond me.
Well, who? Oh, Miss Bailey, what is it you... Miss Bailey, what's happened? What's wrong?
Quick, someone catch her. She's going to faint.
I got her. Like a light. Well, things certainly are beginning to happen around here. What in the world?
Mr. Van Doren, would you bring that water jug on your desk, please?
Oh, yes, sir.
Something must have upset her pretty badly. Who is she, Mr. Van Doren?
She's the receptionist in the outer office. Here's the water.
I'll take it. I wonder if I can just get her to drink a little of it. There we are.
I'll rub her wrist.
Oh, Mr. Fortune. Mr. Fortune.
Easy does it now, easy. You're all right now, Miss Bailey.
Who are you? What's happening?
Well, you came into the office here, Miss Bailey. You looked at us all very queerly, and then you just fainted dead away.
Now I remember. Oh, Mr. Van Doren, he's out there.
Who's out there?
Mr. Fortune.
Fortune? Fortune's outside there? Ken, come on.
Right with you.
This is Miss Bailey's little office here.
And the door leading to the lobby outside is slightly ajar. Let's have a look.
Ken, look. There on the floor.
Fortune, all right. Yep, he must have caved in just as he reached the door. Miss Bailey heard him fall, opened the door, and here he was.
Is he dead?
No doubt of it. He's dead, all right.
How on earth did he get out here?
Something wrong about all this. Just doesn't make sense. Are you sure?
You're going to ask me again if I'm certain he came through my office this morning to get to his own. I tell you he did. I'm sorry you've got to take my word for it, but you must believe me.
Let's try to get this straight. Mr. Fortune comes through your office about 20 minutes ago and goes into his own. Now, the only way of getting to his office is through yours. And that's the only way he can get out again.
Right. You saw that for yourself.
You were in your office all the time, and you didn't see him come out again.
He didn't come out, I'll swear to that.
Well, then how did he get out here? And how was he murdered?
If we could answer those questions, Kent, we'd have the solution to this whole case. There's only one thing to do.
Huh? What's that?
I'm going to call police headquarters and have Inspector Neely come over here at once. If anyone can find an answer to this riddle, he can.
All right, now let me get a full-length shot of him. Okay. Will you photographers quiet down for just a minute? Now, when did you people discover the body of Mr. Fortune?
About 10 minutes ago, Inspector Neely.
Couldn't have been more than that.
Yeah, we'll soon get to the bottom of this. Mr. Van Doren, I'd ask you to close the bank for the rest of the day. Lock all the doors and keep your employees here. We'll want a question.
Miss Bailey, will you go out and...
Just a minute, please. I want Miss Bailey to remain here.
Oh, Inspector, please. I don't want to get mixed up in any murder. All I know
We'll
is
find
that...
out all you know in a little while, Miss Bailey. Meantime, don't worry. It's our job to help you, not to harm you.
I'll telephone outside and have the bank closed.
Inspector, do you mind if Miss Lane and I telephone the Daily Planet?
Yeah, we can get an exclusive on this story.
Well, that'll be all right, I guess.
Good. Lois, will you call Editor White?
Right, Clark. Miss Bailey, is there a phone I can use? Yes, there's one. It's for Mr. Fortune.
Now, Kent, let's see what the medico has to say.
All right.
Doc, what about our friend Fortune?
Died instantly, Inspector. Single knife wound to the heart.
Yes?
Can't tell much more than that without an autopsy.
How long has he been dead?
Hard to say. Rigor mortis hasn't started to set in at all. An hour, maybe a little longer.
Well, according to the story I get, he must have died during the last 40 minutes. Does that check?
Check's all right.
Good. You boys finished taking your news pictures?
Just gotta get one more picture, Inspector.
All right.
Okay, you can have them.
All right, you men remove the body. I want these officers clear. Logan, Fitz, you go on down to the bank and check the stories of every employee down there. The rest of you men clear out. Don't want anyone in here now but Mr. Van Doren and Mr. Kent and Miss Lane and Miss Bailey and myself.
All right, boys, let's go.
All right, go ahead.
White's got the story, Clark. He's got an exclusive on it.
Oh, great. Well, Inspector?
Kent, we're going to get to the bottom of all this right now. I want you people to show me exactly what happened when you found Fortune's body. Mr. Van Doren?
Well, Kent and Miss Lane came to me about an hour ago and said they suspected Mr. Fortune had something to do with the disappearance of the freight car.
You mean the freight car carrying the $5 million in gold for your bank here?
Yes. And, by the way, have you uncovered anything on that yet?
Give us time, Van Doren. Give us time.
I'm afraid you'll have to be Superman to solve this case.
If Lane or Superman really existed, I'd call him in on this case without a minute's hesitation. Well, go ahead, Van Doren.
Well, I went into Fortune's office, and Fortune wasn't there.
Yes?
The peculiar part of that was that Fortune could not have gotten out of this office without passing through mine. And I never saw him come out.
You never... I see. Go on.
Then suddenly Miss Bailey came in, stared at us in a strange way, and then fainted.
Now, why did you faint, Miss Bailey?
Well, I'd been sitting at my desk in the outer office when I heard a knock at the door.
Yes?
I said, come in, but nothing happened. And I went to the door and opened it, and there was Mr. Fortune lying on the floor, dead.
And then you came in here to tell Mr. Van Doren and then fainted.
Yes, that's right.
Well, then what happened? Show me now exactly what you did. Mr. Kent.
We brought Miss Bailey, too, and she told us about Fortune. Mr. Van Doren and I went into the outer office.
Well, all right. Let's go. Just a minute, Miss Lane. Did you come, too?
Oh, no. I stayed here in this office with Miss Bailey.
Then you and Miss Bailey remain here now.
Yes, sir.
I want to get a picture of exactly how everything happened. Now, Kent, let's go into the next office.
All right. Mr. Van Doren and I walked into the outer office.
Yes?
Miss Bailey's office, that is.
Oh.
And when we got here, we looked around.
And then Kent noticed that the door was ajar.
Yes.
You mean the door leading to the lobby?
That's right. So we opened the door, and Mr. Fortune, lay at our feet.
I see. In other words, this whole mystery seems to hinge on whether or not we can be sure that you did not see Fortune leave his office, Mr. Van Doren.
I give you my word, I did not see him go out. I couldn't have missed him if he had.
There was only one way he could get to his office. He'd come through this office here, Miss Bailey's, through your office, then into his own.
That's right, Inspector.
And then to get out, he'd have to reverse that procedure. I think we can check your story, Van Doren, by talking to Miss Bailey. If she didn't see him come out, then we'll know for sure that he must have gotten out some other way.
But there is no other way, Inspector.
We'll worry about that when we come to it. Let's go back into your office, Van Doren, and check Miss Bailey's story.
Very well. I assure you, Inspector, I was in my office every minute of the time, and I'd have seen Mr. Fortune if he... Oh, Miss Bailey, the inspector would like...
Where are they?
Right. Look in Fortune's office.
Okay.
Well?
Oh, they're not in here. Lois! Miss Bailey! Where are you?
Oh, but look here, they couldn't have left here. The three of us were in the outer office all the time. There's no other way of getting out.
How about the windows?
It's a 4-story drop, Kent. What? And there's no fire escape.
But do you mean to say Lois and Miss Bailey have disappeared, too?
Now, look here, you men. This is... Why, it's fantastic.
Maybe it is. But the fact remains they're not here. They've vanished. Just the way Mr. Fortune did. Just the way that freight car did. You can figure this one out, Inspector, then well, by jingo, I'll start believing in Superman.
This whole mystery, Mr. Van Doren, seems to hinge on whether or not we can be sure you did not see Mr. Fortune leave his office.
I did not see him go out. I couldn't have missed seeing him if he had, Inspector Neely.
Well, we can check your story, Van Doren, by talking to Miss Bailey. To get out, he'd have to come through her office here. If she didn't see him come out, then we'll know for sure that he must have got out some other way.
But there is no other way, Inspector.
Well, we'll worry about that when we come to it. Let's go back into your office, Van Doren, and check Miss Bailey's story.
Very well. But I assure you, Inspector, I was in my office every minute of the time, and I'd have seen Mr. Fortune if he... Oh, Miss Bailey, the inspector would let...
Where are they?
Look in Fortune's office.
Okay. Oh, they're not in here. Lawrence, Miss Bailey, where are you?
If they couldn't have left here. The three of us were in the outer office all the time. There's no other way of getting out.
How about the windows?
It's a 4-story drop, Kent, and there's no fire escape.
But do you mean to say Lois and Miss Bailey have disappeared, too?
Right. Have to.
Well, maybe it is. But the fact remains they're not here. They've vanished just the way Mr. Fortune did, just the way that freight car did. Now, if you can figure this one out, Inspector, then well, by jingo, I'll start believing in Superman.
I'm beginning to think this may be a job for Superman.
Oh, stop talking nonsense, Kent, and let's try to figure this thing out. I'm beginning to think I'm going crazy, what with freight cars and people vanishing all over the place.
Well, whoever's behind all this, we can be pretty sure he's a mastermind.
Let's have a look at those windows, Van Doren.
Right.
Well, no fire escape, just as you say. They certainly couldn't have dropped 4 stories to the yard below. Kent, do you suppose... Kent?
Now he's not here. Yet he was standing behind us only 30 seconds ago. I'm going crazy. There's no doubt of it. Now I'm going stark raving mad.
Now, take it easy, Van Doren. Those 3 people must be around here somewhere. Lois Lane, Miss Bailey, and Kent. Kent, I imagine, just stepped out for a minute. Let's go and see. Kent! Why, Kent? Oh, Kent!
Inspector Neely said Lois and Miss Bailey couldn't have fallen 4 stories to the street below. Well, then, if they're not in the office, there's only one place they could have gone. And that's up 1 story to the roof above. I'll just go up these steps leading to the roof and have a look around. No, it doesn't seem... Wait. 3 men out there on the roof. And Miss Bailey. What? They're carrying Lois to the next roof. Lois is unconscious.
This is a job for Superman. You, all of you, stand where you are. Don't move.
Who is this guy? It looks like he's going to a masquerade or something.
Well, whoever he is, I'm getting out of here.
Get out of the next group, Billy. Make your getaway. I said stand where you are and don't move.
Yeah? Well, roll this one off your chin, big boy.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Best way to handle you so is to knock your heads together. There. Now to catch the Bailey woman before she gets off that other roof. After her, quick. Up, and away.
Stay away from me. I've got a gun. I'll shoot.
Put down that gun.
They don't hurt you. Why don't you fall down? You're not human. You're not... Oh.
Ain't it again. This time I don't think she's faking it. Hello. There come Neely and Van Doren. Must have heard the commotion on the roof and the shots. I'd better get out of here. Up.
Now, Miss Bailey, here at police headquarters, we have ways of making people tell us what we want to know. So you'd better talk.
Sorry, I don't know a thing. Not a thing.
May I say something, Inspector?
Certainly, Kent.
Listen, Miss Bailey. Lois Lane is now in a hospital suffering from shock and that crack you gave her over the head. But she's entirely conscious and knows what happened to her. She says you asked her to get you a glass of water. And when she turned her back, you came up behind her and hit her over the head.
How can she prove I hit her if her back was to me?
She heard you come up behind her and turned her head just as you struck. When she came to, she was on the roof. And those men were removing a rope that had been tied around her waist. Now, it's very obvious that after you knocked her out, those men lowered a rope from the roof to the window, and both you and Lois Lane were hoisted up that way.
All right, so I did it. So what?
May I say a word here, gentlemen?
Well, if you can make Miss Bailey talk, Mr. Van Doren, I wish you would.
I've said all I'm going to say.
Miss Bailey, you've worked for me for many years. So does Mr. Fortune. He's dead now, and somehow you seem to be implicated in his death. So you'd better clear this mystery up for us. Tell us how Fortune was murdered and how his body was taken out of that room without my seeing.
Now, wait a minute. Let's get one thing straight. I don't know anything about what happened to Fortune. That's as much of a mystery to me as it is to the rest of you, even though I knew it was good. I mean...
Just a second, Miss Bailey. You're going to say you knew Fortune would be murdered.
I wasn't going to say anything like that at all.
Miss Bailey, who is the boss?
Oh, you react to that, do you?
What do you know about the boss?
The three men you were with on that roof have done some talking, too.
That's all, Inspector?
Yes, Mr. Van Doren. Didn't take long to break them down. They told us that a certain unknown person called the boss is behind all this. A squad of my men are on their way to his hideout now.
That's splendid. Now perhaps we'll find out what happened to that freight car, how it vanished, and where the $5 million went to.
We'll know that when we get the boss. Now, these men didn't seem to know much about how that car was made to vanish. Also, they'd never seen the boss. Apparently, no one ever has. But you see, Miss Bailey, we're making progress. So I think you'd better tell us all you know. It'll make things much easier all around.
So, do I get a break when this thing comes to trial?
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Well,
Now then. Get all this in shorthand, Matthews. She'll sign it later.
Yes, sir.
Well, go ahead, Miss Bailey.
well, I was working for the boss.
Yes?
So was Mr. Fortune. Neither of us had ever seen the boss.
Well, go on.
Well, we went to the hideout. He spoke to us over a loudspeaker.
Oh?
Sometimes he reached us by telephone at the office. That's the way it happened this morning. The boss telephoned me. He said Clark Kent and Lois Lane were coming to question Fortune.
Oh.
And he said he'd have to put Fortune out of the way. I asked him how he was going to do it, but he said not to ask questions. And then he told me when a knock came at the door, I was to open it, and I'd find Mr. Fortune lying out there dead. And then I was to go into Mr. Van Doren's office and faint.
Well, go on.
I was to arrange it so that Kent and Van Doren went into my office, leaving me alone with Miss Lane. What I was supposed to do after that, you already know.
Keep on taking this down, Matthews. Now, look. Why did the boss want you to spirit Miss Lane out of that room?
I asked him that, but he wouldn't tell me. You can bet he had a reason, though. He always does.
You still maintain you know nothing, absolutely nothing, about how Fortune met his death.
Not a thing. You can't pin a murder rap on me.
Inspector.
Oh, Jones. What luck.
No, sir, we went to the address those men gave us. The place was empty. All we found was a room with a loudspeaker in it.
Huh?
And straight wires to another room where there was a microphone.
Well, we'll watch the house.
Well, there's no point in that, sir. The boss knew we were coming.
What?
There was this note pinned to the front door.
Let me see that. Well,
What does it say, Inspector?
it says better luck next time. And it's signed the boss.
Yeah, some class to this new hideout, huh?
I'll say. The boss sure does things right. Maybe it's a good thing the police raided the other dive, huh?
Shut up. Horses get something to say.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, boy.
Hiya, boy.
We seem to have had some excitement these past few days. Unfortunately, several of our number have been taken by the police. Fortunately, however, they know very little, so they won't be able to tell the police much.
I was kind of worried about that, boss. I'm glad to hear it's okay.
Gentlemen, I have called you here to discuss our next job. As you may have heard, the Metropolis National Bank is planning another shipment of gold. $2 million worth. Certain that we wouldn't dare attempt the same trick twice, the police have advised them to ship it exactly as they did the other, in a specially built freight car.
Well, you mean you're going to make that freight car vanish just like the other one?
No, this is what we will do. That train must pass over a deep ravine. There is a bridge.
Yeah, Rainbow Bridge. Sure, I know it. Boy, that's some drop. If you ever fell off that bridge, you wouldn't have a chance.
That's exactly what's going to happen to that train. We shall plant great charges of dynamite at the base of each column supporting that bridge.
Holy smoke.
The train will start to cross the bridge. When the locomotive reaches the other end, its wheels will trip a lever, which will set off the dynamite. The entire train will crash into the valley below.
Boy.
You men will be waiting nearby with a fast truck to transfer the gold from the freight car to the truck and make your getaway. Simple, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. You had to get away with it all right. Sure. You know, boss, that's a pretty desolate mountain country there. But what about the people on that train, the engineer and the brakeman?
$2 million is worth a few lives. Plus that, I'm anxious to see the end of Clark Kent.
Yeah, sure, but what's all this going to do with Clark Kent?
Gentlemen, you can't see beyond your noses. Kent has been working on this case ever since it started. As I figure it, he'll certainly be aboard that train. Need I say more, gentlemen? Need I say more?
It doesn't seem possible, Mr. Kent. The freight car carrying $5 million was attached to the train when the train reached Fulton.
That's right, Jimmy. Yet when the train arrived at Metropolis, the freight car was missing.
And the train didn't stop between Fulton and Metropolis.
Right?
I don't see how it could have been done. You'd have to be Superman to figure that one out.
Yes, I dare say you would.
Well, it sure is a case. What with Miss Lane being stopped over the head and everything. Oh, I went to see her in the hospital today. She's feeling okay again.
Yes, I know. I went up to see her myself.
Now, there's something funny about Mr. Fortune, I mean. The only way he can get her out of his office is by going through Mr. Van Doren. Mr. Van Doren sees him come in, but doesn't see him go out.
That's right. And yet when we went into Fortune's office, he was gone. Completely vanished. Just like the freight car.
Then, a few minutes later, in comes this Miss Bailey and faints. She tells you Fortune's outside. When they go outside, there he is dead. How did he get there? Oh, I'll get it. Hello? Oh, yes, Mr. White, he's right here. Where? Oh, okay, sir, I'll tell him. Hey, Mr. Kent, it's Mr. White.
Yeah?
He's calling from the hospital where Miss Lane is.
Okay, give me the phone, Jimmy.
Here.
Hello, Chief. Yes. Well, how is she? Oh, fine. What's that? Another shipment of $2 million? From where? Hawthorne. I see. Well, catch a plane? Yes. Sure, okay. All right, but I don't think anything will happen this time. No, that's true. You can't be sure. Okay, I'll get a plane this afternoon and ride the train back to
A
Metropolis.
plane trip? Gee, could I go, Mr. Kent?
Yeah.
Try and get me to go, too, huh?
Sure, Chief, but...
Oh, please, Mr. Kent, try to wangle it,
Oh,
huh?
wait, Jimmy, wait a minute. Yes, Chief.
Oh.
Yes, okay.
Oh, gee,
What?
Mr. Kent, ask him, huh? Tell him
What
you
is
need
it?
me along or something.
Okay, Chief, I'll do that.
Oh.
By the way, what are the chances of taking Jimmy Olsen with me? Well, I could use somebody to help out with things. I can't do everything, you know. Different when Lois is along, but...
What's he say, Mr. Kent?
I see. Okay, Chief. Well, goodbye.
What's he say, huh? Can I go, Mr. Kent? Can I?
Jimmy, I'm afraid it's just impossible to leave you behind.
You mean I can go? On a plane and everything?
That's right.
Yippee!
Hey, Ken, strangle that kid, will you? How can a guy work? Take it easy, Jimmy.
Huh?
There's lots to do. We'll have to catch the 3:30 plane for Hawthorne.
Oh, jeepers, I almost forgot. Why are we going?
A fine newspaper man you're going to be. Well, here's the story. Van Doren of the Metropolis National Bank is having another shipment of gold sent through from Hawthorne.
Yeah?
$2 million worth. Well, we've got to go to Hawthorne by plane and then come back by train, just to be on the train in case anything breaks.
Boy, oh boy, is this going to be exciting.
Well, I wouldn't get too excited about it. I don't think anything will happen this time.
Why not?
Well, for one thing, I don't believe the boss would try the same scheme twice. For another, I doubt whether he'll have the opportunity with the police hot on his trail.
Yeah, but gee, riding an airplane.
And you won't even get that if you don't scoot home and get some things packed. I'll meet you at the airport at 3:25. I'll call up now and reserve seats on the plane. Tickets will be waiting for us in the office when we get there.
Boy, I'm on my way. See you at the airport.
Kind of knocks my plans into a carcat. I wanted to have another look at those tracks between Bolton and Metropolis. I've got a theory as to how that freight car vanished. Now I've got to go to Hawthorne. I wonder... Why, sure. I could send Jimmy on by plane and then meet him at the train later. I'll do that. I can leave a message for him at the airport ticket office. Order. Take my bag.
Passengers for 3:30 plane assemble at gate 6, please. Passengers for 3:30 plane assemble at
You Jimmy Olsen?
Huh? Oh, yes, sir.
I have a message for you from a Mr. Kent.
Gee, is the trip called off?
Now, I have your ticket right here.
Oh.
Mr. Kent said to tell you he wouldn't be able to take this plane, but for you to go on. He said he'd managed to meet you on the train in Hawthorne.
Okay. Gee, for a moment I thought the trip was off.
Here's your ticket, and I think you'd better get on the plane now.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Oh, stewardess, keep an eye on that boy. He's traveling alone, and
Inspecting these tracks is a lot easier as Superman than it would be as Clark Kent. I hope Jimmy got my message all right. I couldn't go to Hawthorne without finding out whether my theory about that vanished freight car is right or not. There we are. Now, let's see. The tracks run along the base of this mountain. Why wouldn't it be possible for... Wait. There's a movement in the brush near that track. Better hide. I was right. That brush heap is being moved aside. There's a man emerging from it. I knew it. That brush hides a hole dug into the side of the mountain. An entranceway. They could dig a hole large enough to admit a man. They could dig one large enough to admit a freight car. I'll question that man. You! You there! Stand where you are!
What the... Hey. Who are you, buddy? What are you doing here?
What's with those trick clothes?
I'll do the questioning. Where does that tunnel lead to?
Bud, I think maybe you better come with me.
What do you mean?
Get this straight, fella. Whatever happens, I can't let you go back to town and start blabbing about that tunnel, so you better come with me.
I wouldn't.
Don't argue, buddy. You got a gun. You better come quiet.
All right. I'll come with you.
That's the way to talk. Step into the tunnel.
Very well. Where does this tunnel lead to?
You'll find out. Keep moving.
Wow, this is the strangest thing I've ever seen.
Take a good look. You ain't going to see it again.
You don't mean you're going to...
Just keep moving. Just keep moving. Okay, here we are. Now just wait till I open this door. Hey, you guys. Hey, look what I brought you.
Quite the fancy outfit. Shut up. This is serious. Where'd you get this guy, Muggsy?
Hey, I found him walking along the tracks outside the mountains.
Yeah? What were you doing this far out of town on the railroad tracks? Come on, pal, talk.
Is that a freight car?
Yeah, that's a freight car, all right. What are you doing outside?
I'm more interested in knowing what you men are doing inside this mountain. That's a shortwave radio apparatus over that corner, isn't it?
I'll ask a question, pal. You answer him.
This is so amazing.
Yeah?
Why, it's like a huge cave in here. A huge cave inside a mountain.
Yeah.
Anyone riding in a train on the tracks outside would never suspect it. And what's that freight car doing in here? It doesn't look like an ordinary freight car. And that shortwave sending and receiving apparatus. I don't understand it.
And we ain't explaining it to you. Okay, buddy. I don't know what you was doing outside or how you got there. All I know is you got to get rid of it. Muggsy.
Yeah, what's he going to do?
Just stand where you are and keep looking at me.
What? Now, listen. Why, Muggsy, what did you do?
I just did. I come up behind. I hit him over the head with the iron bar. Hey, look at that iron bar. Better too.
I see all you men are starting to produce guns. Let me advise you, they'll do you no good.
I will see about that. Let him have those guns.
Better than a fight. Come on, all of you. One for you, and one for you.
You fool. You try it yourself, Phil.
Okay, I will. And when I hit a guy, you go.
Well, there are still 6 of you left, but you all seem to be hanging back.
We got enough. We don't know who you are, but we got enough.
Good. And now I've got to find out how you got that freight car in here.
As Superman prepares to find the answer to the riddle of the vanishing freight car, Jimmy Olsen in Hawthorne boards the train which is to carry the $2 million gold shipment to Metropolis. Neither Superman nor Jimmy know that the boss plans to blow up Rainbow Bridge while the train is passing over it. Listen. Hey, kid. What you doing standing here beside this caboose?
Oh, I'm looking for Mr. Kent. Clark Kent.
Ah, Clark Kent of the Metropolis Daily Planet?
That's right. He's supposed to meet me on the train here. I arrived a little while ago by plane.
Well, then you must be Jimmy Olsen.
That's right.
Editor White of the Daily Planet wired the dispatcher that you two would be along. And we was to let you ride in the caboose or the engine cab if you wanted to. Your friend Kent ain't arrived yet.
Oh, then I'll wait.
No, you won't. This train is starting right now.
But it wasn't supposed to start till 6 o'clock. It's only 5 o'clock now.
Yeah, I know. We changed the schedule several days ago. We're pulling out from Metropolis in 2 minutes flat, kid.
Yeah, I guess Mr. Kent won't make it now.
It doesn't matter. There won't be any story anyway. Nothing's going to happen to this train. You can ride back to Metropolis, though. Now, kid, where you want to ride? Caboose or engine cab?
Oh, gee, the engine cab.
That's what I thought. Well, come on. Ain't a boy in the country wouldn't give his right arm to ride in the cab of an engine. Oh, say there, Charlie.
Yeah, what is it?
I got a boy here's going to ride to Metropolis with you. He's a newspaper man.
Well, is he now?
Yeah.
Well. Say, did you hear that? We're going to have a celebrity riding with us.
Yeah, that's so. Dispatcher says it's okay, fellas. All right with you, lad. Up you go. There we go. There he is.
Yeah, well, me bucko, you're just in time. But we're just starting right this minute.
You want more steam?
Ah, we've got enough. Well, tell me, you comfortable, lad?
Oh, I'll be all right. Don't worry about me.
Good. And here we go for Metropolis. We got enough. We don't know who you are, but we got enough.
Good. And now will you answer my questions, gentlemen?
Sure. Go ahead,
Splendid. The first question I want the answer to is this. How did that freight car, the one standing over there, the one that was carrying $5 million in gold, how did you manage to detach it from the freight train and bring it in here?
Go ahead, Bill. You tell him.
I can't tell him.
You guys know what the boss will do to me if I squeal?
The boss? Who is the boss? Come on, open up, or it's going to be just too bad for all of you.
We don't know, honest, pal. We don't know. We never even seen a boss.
What?
Any orders we ever had from him, we've gotten through a loudspeaker at headquarters or over this shortwave radio.
You've never seen him, eh? At the same time, you're pretty much afraid of him.
You don't know the boss like we do. Anything the boss wants to do, he does.
Like making freight cars, such as that one over there, carrying $5 million in gold, disappear.
That's right, pal. The boss is a clever guy. He can do anything.
I'm beginning to wonder about that. How did you get that freight car in here? How did you separate it from a train of nearly 100 other freight cars without the engineer or anyone else on the train knowing anything about it?
Look, pal, I can't talk. The boss will kill me if he finds out. No. Don't hit me again.
Talk.
But I can't. I can't. You hear?
Talk.
All right. Okay, just don't hit me again. I'll talk.
I'm waiting.
The boss had it all figured out, see?
Yes?
Outside where the tracks run along the base of this mountain, there's a steep hill and a curve.
I know that.
When a train going downhill comes around that curve, the engineer has to slow down to 10 miles an hour.
Yes, go on.
Well, we had a couple of our boys disguised as brakemen on a train. And as it slowed down to 10 miles an hour, they uncoupled the freight car carrying the dough. Then they slowed down that one car to 7 miles an hour by using the wheel brake on top of it.
Yes?
So the front end of the train, going 10 miles an hour, went on ahead of the money car. And the rear end of the train was slowed down to 5 miles an hour by another brakeman.
Oh.
So you see, that leaves the money car coasting down the tracks all by itself with the front end of the train way ahead of it and the rear end of the train way behind it.
I see. But how did you get the car inside the mountain?
Oh, that was simple. We slung a pair of emergency tracks right on top of the regular tracks, switching the money car off the main line right into this cave.
Oh, I see. Then you quickly pulled up the emergency tracks and let the rear end of the freight train coast down and catch up with the front end.
That's it. We let the rear cars run free again, and they soon caught up with the other cars, which were still traveling slow. All we had to do then was to buckle them on again, and the job was done.
Certainly was simple.
Sure was simple. Nobody caught on to it, except you. Hey, listen. Listen, brother, who are you? Why the fancy costume? Where do you get your strength from?
Never mind that. Is the $5 million in gold still inside that freight car?
Yeah. The boss hasn't given us any orders where to ship it yet.
How about the crew of guards that was inside?
Well, we got them locked up in a safe place.
That shortwave radio apparatus. You get in touch with the boss on it?
Well,
Can you or can't you? Don't stall. Answer me.
Yeah, we can get in touch with him.
Get him.
But
You heard me. Get in touch with him and do it right away.
Okay, you're the doctor. Turn around, Joe.
Okay.
I'll start sending a signal. QX4 calling QXW. QX4 calling QXW. QX4 calling QXW.
QXW answering QX4. Come in, QX4.
This is Bill speaking, boss.
Yes, Bill, what is it? Nothing's gone wrong at Rainbow Bridge, I trust.
Rainbow Bridge. What do you mean by that? Go on, question him. You know what I want.
Well, why, what could go wrong at Rainbow Bridge, boss?
Nothing that I know of, but there must be some reason for your call. What do you want, Bill?
Tell him to come here at once. Tell him you've simply got to see him.
He'll never come. He'll expose himself by coming here. No one has ever seen him.
Bill, why don't you answer me?
Tell him to come here, quick.
Hello, boss. What I wanted was this. Can you come here right away?
Why, you know I can't come there. Are you out of your mind, Bill?
Tell him it's an emergency. You can't explain.
It's an emergency, boss. I can't explain.
An emergency? Why, what sort of an emergency?
Just say the $5 million. Just that, nothing more.
Oh, you're driving that. Why should I stay to
Bill!
Do as I tell you, or by heaven.
Okay, I'll do it.
Bill, why don't you answer me? Why do I have to come there? What emergency are you talking about?
Boss, the $5 million in gold.
Not another word.
$5 million? Well, what about it, Bill? What about it?
Shut off that sending apparatus.
But I can't.
I say.
Okay, shut it off.
Bill, what about the $5 million? What's happened to it? Why must I come?
Good.
Say, I don't savvy this, pal. Just what are you getting at?
The boss knows there's something wrong. He doesn't know what it is. Except that it has something to do with the $5 million.
So what?
Just this, my friend. If the boss doesn't arrive here within the next hour, I'll be very much surprised. He'll be so worried about that $5 million he won't be able to wait.
But he'll kill me if he finds out what I've done.
Don't worry. He won't be in a position to do anyone any harm when I get done with him. One thing bothers me. What did he mean by asking if anything had gone wrong at Rainbow Bridge?
I don't know.
The boss wouldn't have asked you if you didn't know something. Now, come on, I'm not wasting time with you. What about Rainbow Bridge?
I tell you, I don't know.
There's a friend of mine on that train, the one that crosses Rainbow Bridge in about an hour. I'm not taking chances. Talk, friend, talk.
I'll talk. Don't hit me again, please don't.
I'm waiting.
The Metropolis National Bank is shipping through another $2 million in gold.
Yes?
The boss plans to blow up Rainbow Bridge and hijack the gold car that way.
Oh. How is that to be done?
There's a crew of men out at the bridge now. The dynamite's been laid. And when the engine gets to the other side of the bridge, the dynamite will go off.
I see. Well, there's plenty of time. It's 5:45 now, and the train doesn't start out from Larimer until 6 o'clock. It'll take it an hour to reach Rainbow Bridge. Won't arrive at the bridge until 7 o'clock. I've got at least an hour. 1 hour in which I can wait for the boss before starting for Rainbow Bridge.
But, unknown to Superman, the train schedule has been changed. Instead of leaving Larimer at 6 o'clock, the train left at 5, and is now only 15 minutes from Rainbow Bridge. Listen.
Hey, you want more tea, Charlie? No, there's plenty, Olaf. All right, how are you enjoying your first ride in the cab of a locomotive?
Oh, gee, it's swell. Sure, I'm getting a kick out of it. One thing worries me, though, and that's why my friend Clark Kent didn't meet me at Larimer.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, but you see, he expected the train to leave at 6 o'clock, not 5. He didn't know the schedule had been changed. What time is it now?
4 to 6.
Gee, probably just getting to Larimer Station now.
Well, now, me bucko, there's nothing to worry about. You missed the train, and that's all there is to it. Nothing you can do, so why don't you just relax and enjoy the ride, huh? Ah, look now. We're coming to a real pretty view.
What's that?
Rainbow Bridge. Yeah, see, we're a little ahead of schedule. There's the bridge right ahead. Now, look, you lad. You see how beautiful it arches across the valley there?
Gee, sure is beautiful. How soon before we start to cross it?
Well, I guess it's about another 5 minutes, lad. Yeah, another 5 minutes and we'll be crossing Rainbow Bridge. And then, me bucko, you'll be having one of the biggest trips of your life. Hey, Bill, you think the boss will come? I don't know. This guy here seems to think he will.
He'll come, all right. Probably on his way here right now. I'll bet anything he's plenty worried about what's happened to that $5 million.
Yeah, but nobody's ever seen him. He's taking darn good care of that. You think he's going to let anybody see what he looks like now?
It depends on which is more important. The $5 million or his identity.
Oh, holy jumping. That must be him now.
Can he come through the tunnel that leads into this cave alone?
Yeah.
Good. We'll wait.
Yeah. Wait for the boss.
You ain't kidding. I never laid eyes on the boss. But when I do it, it's going to be a shock.
He'll be the one to be shocked.
He's at the door.
Yeah. Gee, I'm nervous.
Is that the signal?
Yeah.
Good. Now to see who the boss really is. Bill, open that door.
The suspense is getting me.
Yeah, you're right. I've never laid eyes on the boss. And when I do it, it's going to be a shock.
Yes. No one has ever seen the boss, eh?
No.
Well, we'll soon...
There he is now.
Oh, gosh, I'm nervous.
Is that the signal?
Yeah.
Good. Now to see who the boss really is. Bill, open that door. I said open it.
Okay.
Well, Bill, here I am. What's wrong? What's happened? Well, don't stand there with your mouth open.
Are you the boss?
Well, you're Reginald Van Doren. You're the president of the Metropolis National Bank.
Now, listen to me, you men. I kept my identity a secret for a long time.
Pretty clever, robbing your own bank.
Listen to me, I said. You've all had an easy time of it working for me. You've had little to do, and the pay has been good. If one of you ever breathes a word of this, if you ever give me away...
Who's done that, Van Doren?
What are you talking about?
That guy in a masquerade costume standing over there to the side has heard every word you said.
That's right, Mr. Van Doren.
What? Who is this man? Why is he dressed like that? What's he doing here?
Listen, boss, whoever he is, take it easy. The 10 of us hopped on him and he beat the pants off us. Even bullets don't hurt him. He's the guy that made us trick you into coming here.
Tricked me into... Bill, you mean to say nothing is wrong? That this has all been a trick to lure me here?
Well, you see, we was all waiting around
I'll
here
answer that. Yes, Van Doren, it was a trick. Nothing more than that. I had to make your men pretend something had happened to the $5 million in that freight car to make you come here and reveal your identity. Well, as they say in detective stories, the game is up.
There's something familiar about you. I'm hanged if I know what it is. Who are you, anyway?
That doesn't matter. What does matter is putting you and this gang of yours behind bars where you belong. After that, I'll see that the $5 million is restored to the depositors of your bank.
Oh, you will. You think you...
Wait a minute. I haven't time to argue with you now. It's almost 6 o'clock. There's a train leaving Larimer in 10 minutes carrying another $2 million in gold.
Well, what of it?
And I understand you plan to blow up Rainbow Bridge when that train passes over it.
How can I blow up the bridge if my men and I are here?
You can't fool me that way, Van Doren. I happen to know how you've arranged it. When the locomotive reaches the other side of that bridge, it will trip a lever, which will then explode the dynamite you've planted under the bridge.
Very well. You know how it'll be done. But you won't save the train.
What do you mean?
Just this.
Put that gun away, boss. Won't do you no good against this guy. We even tried Tommy guns on him.
I'm not going to use it on him.
Hey, what are you talking about, boss?
That corner over there. There are about 10 boxes of dynamite piled on top of each other.
Sure. We had that left over after we finished blasting out this cave. We had this, hey, wait a minute now.
A long time ago, I made up my mind that if I were ever caught, I'd take the easiest way out rather than face the music.
I wouldn't do any bluffing, Van Doren, because I'll call your bluff.
I'm not bluffing. Either you let me walk out of here safely and unharmed, I'll blow us all to kingdom come by sending a bullet into that dynamite.
He means gonna blow us all. What are you gonna do?
Give me that gun, Van Doren.
One more step. Just one more.
No.
All right. You're up for it.
Did you see what happened? Holy mackerel, did you see that? Well, all I seen was a streak, and then that guy was standing there in front of the dynamite station.
Yes. And here, Van Doren, is the bullet you just fired.
I know who that guy is now. He's Superman.
You've gone very white, Van Doren. You're trembling. Perhaps you realize now there is nothing you can do to help yourself. Drop your gun, Van Doren, and give up quietly. And now, gentlemen, I'm going to leave you. But don't try to follow me. I'm going to barricade the entrance to this cave so you won't get out.
But you can't leave us in here. We'll starve to death.
Oh, you won't be here that long. It shouldn't take more than an hour or two for the police to arrive.
Leaving the cave, Superman blocks up the entrance to it and then speeds to Larimer, there to meet Jimmy Olsen and warn the railroad authorities that Rainbow Bridge will be blown up the minute a train passes over it. He arrives at Larimer and, in the guise of Clark Kent, enters the station master's office.
Oh, yes, sir. There you are. Two from Metropolis? That's right. Yes, sir. Here you are.
Thank you.
Oh, what can I do for you, sir?
Well, what track does the 6 o'clock train from Metropolis leave on?
6 o'clock train from Metropolis?
Yes.
Oh, I guess you don't know. The schedule's been changed, sir.
What?
Yes, sir. 6 o'clock train, now leaves an hour earlier at 5.
Wait, now let me get this straight. The train I expected to leave here a few minutes from now left nearly an hour ago, is that right?
That's right, sir. There'll be another train from Metropolis just about...
Never mind. I've got to get out of here.
Well, I wonder what he's so upset about. After all, just because you missed it.
I'd only known. There I was back at that cave wasting time with Van Doren. Have I time, I wonder? Can I reach that bridge before the train does? Well, this is another job for Superman. Up, and away!
We're crossing Rainbow Bridge at last. Wouldn't you be looking at that view now, would you?
Gee, it sure is keen. Look how high we are. How far down to the bottom of the canyon?
4,000 feet or more. Think of what had happened to you if you fell off.
Oh, gee, don't say things like that. Just the thought of it makes me scared.
There's nothing to be scared of, laddie. We're nearly to the other side. Just another minute, we'll be across.
There's the train ahead. She's practically across. When the locomotive reaches the other side, the bridge supports at that end will be blown up. I've got to stop them before they reach it. Faster, faster. I may make it by a split second. It's just possible I can... Oh, too late. There's the explosion. The bridge is collapsing. Only one thing to do. I've got to hold up that bridge until the train passes over it. Down! There, got it. Those timbers creak. But I made it. Just in time.
Mr. White, it was terrific. We heard this explosion, and the bridge started to sway back and forth. Boy, I thought we were going over sure. Then suddenly the bridge stopped swaying, so you could feel it was kind of ripping.
All right, Jimmy. If you've told me once, you've told me a dozen times.
Yeah, but you won't believe me about Superman.
Of course I don't believe you.
I tell you, I saw him. When we got the whole train safe on the other side, we got out. Then we saw the bridge start to fall. And I saw this man in a red cape and everything fly down into the valley.
Nonsense. Sheer nonsense. You imagined it.
Well, then, how do you account for those men? The men who were waiting in the valley to get the gold when the train crashed. How do you account for them being captured? When the police got there, they were all tied up inside the truck. They said they'd been captured by a guy wearing a red cape.
They imagined it, too.
Oh, some imagination. How about Mr. Van Doren and the gang inside the cave? They said...
I tell you, I'll not believe in such foolishness. Superman. Super nonsense.
Hi, Chief. Hello, Jimmy.
Well, Kent, a fine time for you to show up.
Yes, Mr. Ken. What happened to you?
Why didn't you meet the train at Larimer? What's the idea of letting this youngster make the trip alone?
Oh, Chief,
We'd have had a fine story out of that bridge blowing up, Kent, if we'd had a reporter on the job.
Oh, wait a minute, Mr. White. What was wrong with my story?
Oh, wait a minute, everybody. I missed the plane, Chief, but I got another one out right away. Gosh, as it happened, the train schedule was changed.
That's right, Mr. White. We left an hour early.
You two can cook up more alibis. You come into my office for a little.
Well, that's where we get it, Mr. Ken.
Yep, looks that way, Jimmy. Another bawling out. Well, we've taken the others. I guess we can take this one.
All right, come in here. Now sit down, both of you.
All right.
Now then, let's get one thing straight. From now on, there's going to be no more...
Gosh, Mr. White, what's wrong?
What are you staring at your desk?
This pile of stones on my blotter.
Oh, I noticed those the minute I came in. You're taking up geology or something?
Look at those stones, Kent. Don't you see anything peculiar about them?
Yes. They've been sort of piled up into a queer kind of formation. Well, it's as if someone had spent some time arranging them.
Someone did. That pile of stones is an Indian symbol. A warning of impending death.
Jimmy.
You sure that's the Indian sign of death?
Positive.
Oh, someone's playing a joke on you. Besides, what do you know about Indians?
More than you think. Hey, let's have a drink of water. Jimmy, hand me that water pitcher.
Sure, Mr. White, I'll get it. Holy mackerel. Did you see that?
The water pitcher. It shattered into 1,000,000 pieces just as you reached for it.
Well, what could have done that?
The thing that did it is lying on the floor. Pick it up, Jimmy.
Jeepers. Look what it is.
Kent, do you see what that is?
Yes, Mr. White. It's an arrow.
What is the meaning of these strange occurrences in Editor White's office? Who placed the Indian warning of death on Editor White's desk? Who shot the arrow that shattered the water pitcher? What new adventure awaits our friends? Be sure to hear the next episode of our story with Superman.